Hello everybody. Today we are going to see new topic, that is professional secrecy and privileged communication. Before starting our new topic, we'll take the revision. In last 12 lectures, we have learned about the basic things, definition of medical jurisprudence, difference between medical jurisprudence and forensic medicine, then what are the constitution of a state medical council, what are the function of state medical council, constitution of medical council of India, nowadays called as National Medical Council, functions of National Medical Council, then right of registered medical practitioner, duties of registered medical practitioner, and in last week we have learned about the professional misconduct. So the definition of professional misconduct is any act done by a registered medical practitioner during pursuit of his practice which is regarded as disgraceful and dishonorable by professional brethren of good repute and competence. Then we have seen what are the different types or what are the different acts which are considered as a professional misconduct. For example, advertising, adultery, association with a non-qualified person, then dichotomy, that is fee splitting, then not providing the records of the patient within 72 hours, then determination of sex, or the doctor is convicted for any crime. So there is a numerous list of a professional misconduct, and I requested all of you that you to make or to uphold the dignity of our medical professional, we all should not do or not indulge in such practices and do our practice ethically. Then, as we are next to God and we can maintain our professional dignity. Next, very important point and very important topic related to your short-term goal as well as your long-term goal. Short-term goal to pass a second year MBBS medicine forensic subject. So many times the short note in university examination has been asked on a professional secrecy and privileged communication. So briefly, I have highlighted on this professional secrecy in duties of a doctor in relation to the patient. So, as to maintain our dignity, trust of our profession, many times we come some secrets of a patient during our clinical examination as well as during the treatment. So, at that time, we should keep these secrets confident. So it should not be divulged to any third party. There are some exceptions. That exceptions we are going to deal in subtopic, that is the privileged communication. By in large, in 90% cases, you have to maintain professional secrecy. So I am again repeating that whatever the secrets you get during your clinical examination as well as during your treatment, you have to maintain it as a secret only. You should not divulge it to any third party. Again, I am repeating, you have to maintain that confidentiality about the secrets of the patient. You have to maintain the confidentiality about secret of the patient. So, it should be inculcated in your mind that all the secrets should be with you only, except some conditions. Is it clear? So, as I have told you, that registered medical practitioner, the secrets he learns during the medical examination and treatment, he has to keep it as secret only. Exceptional condition, we are going to see in a subtopic what is privileged communication. So for if you divulge it, patient can lodge complaint against you for divulging that secret to the public or a third party, and you may come into the trouble. So you can get punishment for this. Never divulge the secrets of the patient to the society as well as to the third party. And for what? It is to maintaining the trust and uphold the dignity of our profession. So what are the conditions? In which conditions you have to maintain professional secrecy? These are: first, if you get some secrets during your clinical examination or treatment, it should not be divulged to even his father, mother, if he is major, means above 18 years old, without his consent. Is it clear? So, these professional secrets should not be divulged to even to the parents, sister, brother, father, mother, without consent. If he gives the consent, then you can tell to his parents, his brother and sister. But without his consent, you cannot divulge that secret to the parents as well as close relatives. Also, if he is government or private employee, in that case also, you should not divulge that secret to his employer, even if he is government servant as well as in a private servant. It can be divulged with the consent of the patient. Second point, also these secrets cannot be divulged to the spouse. That secrets of a husband cannot be divulged to the wife or vice versa. That is, the secrets of a wife cannot be divulged to the husband. But there are some exceptions. But in general, you should not divulge these secrets to the spouse. With consent, you can divulge. Third, if he is domestic servant, these secrets cannot be divulged. These secrets cannot be divulged to his master. After consent, he can divulge, but without consent, it cannot be divulged. Third thing, if he is minor or intoxicated or mentally ill, then these secrets can be divulged or told to the parents. But in major cases, that should not be told to the parents. If minor is at a hostel, then these secrets can be told to the warden or superintendent of that hostel. In case of a minor, not in case of a major. In minor, it can be told to the warden or superintendent. In case of major, you cannot tell to the warden or a superintendent if that person is in a hostel. Next, in case of prisoner, secrets can be divulged, told to the jailer. But if he is under trial, means he is only in a jail and is not convicted, punishment has not been given to him, at that time he should not tell any secret to the jailer. Next, also In artificial insemination cases, do not tell the identity of a donor as well as the recipient. So that secrecy must be maintained. In clinical postmortem or pathological postmortem, after doing that, if you get something that patient was suffering from this disease, you should not divulge it to maintain the reputation of that disease. So that should be used for academic purpose. That thing should not be made public because it can cause damage to the reputation of that person. If you are writing any research article or any case report, in that case, if you have taken a photograph of a patient and you want to publish that photograph in any journal, in that case, you should not print that photograph as taken because it can divulge the identity. In that case, you have to make a black on the eyes as well as so that or other things so that his identity cannot be confirmed or that cannot his identity cannot be recognized. If a person or patient come to your OPD to get a report or certificate for any reason, in that case, you have to write whatever the secrets or whatever the finding that is the correct. Because he himself has given consent. It is applicable for the insurance purposes. Many times the patient comes to you to give a physical fitness certificate in insurance. But for that, you have to tell all the things or the secrets, whatever you have observed during your examination to the insurance company. But if a patient comes for only the treatment, not to get any certificate, in that case, he should not tell any secrets to the public or the third party. Is it clear? So these are the circumstances in which you have to maintain the professional secrecy. Again, I will revise that without the consent of a patient, you cannot divulge the secret to his family members like a parent, brother, sister, or to his employer, even if he is the government employee. Should not tell any secret to his or her spouse. Should not tell any secret of a domestic servant to his master. Also, in case of minors, mentally ill or intoxicated person, you can tell this secret to the parent. If that person is in hostel, then and a minor, then you can tell this secret to the warden of superintendent. But in major, you cannot divulge the secret. In case of prisoners, you cannot divulge the secret to the jailer. In case of prisoner who is convicted, in that case, you can tell the secret. But if he is under trial, not convicted, in that case, you should not divulge any secret. Also, in artificial insemination, donor recipient identity should not be disclosed. Clinical postmortem, whatever the things you come, that should not be divulged to avoid any harm to the reputation of a disease. That should be kept only for the academic purpose. And if you want to publish your article in journal, you have to make a black thing over the eyes so that, or on the face, so that the patient's identity cannot be revealed. And if the patient has given consent, and you have that proof of a consent, then you can paste that photograph or publish that or print that photograph in a journal. But without his or her consent, you cannot print the photograph of a patient without his consent. At that time, you have to make the some black thing or use some software to such that his face cannot be, his or her face cannot be recognized. That is about the professional secrecy. Next important point is that of the privileged communication. Definition of a privileged communication is that it is defined as a bona fide information to authority given by RFP by virtue of his duty to protect the interest of community or the society. So what is privileged communication? Privileged communication is the exceptional acts or exceptional incidences where doctor can reveal or disclose the secret of a patient, not to public, to the authority. So again, I will repeat the definition. Definition of a privileged communication is bona fide information. This word is very important. These two words. It is bona fide information. To whom you are going to give? To the authority. By what? By virtue of his duty. For what? For protecting the interest of community or the society. So that is the definition of privileged communication. So privileged communication, it is a bona fide information to the authority given by RLP by virtue of his duty to protect the interest of community or society. It's known as privileged communication. Is it clear? Then what are the circumstances in which the privileged communication is done? First, patient having STD, that is, patient suffering from the sexually transmitted disease, and that patient is going to marry within 1 month. In that case, at first you should call him, tell the consequences of the sexually transmitted diseases. If he marry, then that sexually transmitted disease can be transmitted to his or her spouse. So he can postpone that marriage till he gets cured. But if patient is not listening, in that case, then you can tell to his or her future spouse that that person is suffering from that sexual transmitted disease. So this is not the correct time to marry with him. After he gets cured, after his treatment, you can do the marriage. But uphold the marriage until he gets cured. So that is the first. That is, in a sexually transmitted disease, at first directly don't tell to the spouse. At first call the patient, counsel him, tell the consequences of it. If he listens, well and good. If he doesn't listen, then and then only you have to communicate to his or her future spouse that the person to whom he or she is going to marry is suffering from sexual transmitted disease, and that disease can get if after the marriage to you. So better to uphold the marriage till he takes all the treatment and gets cured. Is it clear? Secondly, if the person is working in a hotel and is suffering from the tuberculosis, so that tuberculosis can be transmitted to the customers who are coming to that hotel. So first again, call that patient, counsel him that first take treatment, don't go to the work, because with your this working, you can transmit that disease to the other persons. So at first get treatment, get cured, and afterwards you can rejoin the duty. If he listens, well and good. If he doesn't listen, then you can contact to his employer and tell that that hotel owner that that person is suffering from this, so you should not allow him to serve as a waiter or to as a cook or other. This is the example I am giving. There are different other circumstances. In these cases, you can, even if the owner is also not listening, then you can contact to the authority of Food and Drug Committee, that is FDA, and that can take action on that hotel. Third thing is non-infectious disease. Here, if the person is suffering from non-infectious disease like a color blindness and he is working as a driver, in that case, he doesn't recognize the red signal, then the green signal. If he is not able to recognize color, then there are chances of accident. So in that case, again procedure is same. You have to call that patient, counsel him, tell that this job is not perfect for you. You can change your job. If he is not listening, then in that case, you can consult to the or communicate to the authority and tell the authority, don't appoint that person for this job because he is not fit for that job. So that is about the non-infectious disease. Again, after counseling, he says, yes, sir, I will change my job. So it's well and good. But if he doesn't listen, then and then only you have to communicate it that to the authority. In all these circumstances, please remember that at first, don't go directly communicate to the authority. First, counsel that patient. And after counseling, if he doesn't listen, then and then only you have to communicate to the authority. So that is the basic thing. Is it clear? Next is the public place infectious disease. If the person is suffering from some skin disease and he goes swimming for swimming tank for the swimming, and there are chances that that skin disease can be communicated to other person. So again same format that you have to call that patient, counsel him that first get treatment, get cure of a skin disease. After the cure, then he can go to the swimming pool and after that he can do his swimming. He listens, well and good. If he doesn't listen, then you can communicate to the authority of the swimming pool that this person is suffering from skin disease, so doesn't allow him to do the swimming in that swimming pool. So that is the important. Next is the epidemic. Like this is the COVID-19 crisis. This, if you get information that some person is came from the abroad, he has visited abroad and he has not contacted the authority and directly without quarantine, he came to the home. At that case, it's your duty to the tell authority that this person has came from abroad. This person is came from abroad. So he should get quarantine for 14 days and after that he can come to the home. Like that, I am giving examples. So there are other diseases also. Then if you come like a poliomyelitis or other diseases, if you come across some epidemic, then you have to tell the authority that some epidemic or some disease epidemic is going on that particular area to withhold the further spread. So in that epidemic time, you have to tell the concerned authority about that epidemic. Next is crime. If the patient of stab injury come to your hospital for the treatment, first and foremost duty of yours is to save his life, give the treatment. But stab injury is maybe it is of a medical legal, either suicidal, either accidental or homicidal. You don't know. It's not natural. So in that case, you have to inform the police, that is the authority, that this stab injury or other like accident patient has come to your hospital and it's your duty to inform the authority. You are not informed, then you may get trouble because you have kept it a secret, but it's the crime is not a thing to keep a secret. So that criminal act or whatever the you feel suspicion, that should be communicated to the authority. Sometimes for the interest of patient. The patient is not giving consent and you know that he is suffering from a dangerous disease. He needs some treatment. He needs family support. If you feel that it's for good, in a good faith, it's for life saving of a patient, then you can communicate to his parent or close relative that this person is suffering from this disease, but I have told the treatment, is neglecting that treatment. So, as a family member, you have to counsel him, you have to take the seriousness of the, and he has to get that treatment fully. So, for the interest of a patient, sometimes you have to disclose that secret to the family members. Sometimes interest of a doctor also. If the patient has lost some complaint against the doctor as a negligence or a professional misconduct, in that case also, if it is necessary that you have to divulge his secret and that secret he has kept and that secret can save you, in that case, you have to disclose that secret to the authority. And lastly, court of law. So if court wants, if you are going to the court and the court wants that please tell what are the secrets. If the judge has ordered, then in a court you have to tell the whatever the findings you got during your examination or the treatment. By court's order, that secrets can be done. So this is a very important point as related to your short-term goal as well as your long-term goal, that a successful registered medical practitioner, I will add a word, successful, honest, registered medical practitioner. So word privileged communication, it is a bona fide information to the authority given by RMP by virtue of his duty to protect the interests of a community or the society. What are the circumstances? Having sexually transmitted diseases, having infectious diseases like tuberculosis, non-infectious diseases like color blindness, for a public interest, infectious disease, skin disease, unwanted to swim, then in case of epidemics, if he has done or she has done some crime, in case of interest of patient, in case of interest of doctor, or if the court orders, then you have to divulge that secrets of a patient to the authority, not directly to the community. So to the authority, not directly to the community. So I will revise it again that in today's lecture, we have learned about what is professional secrecy, under which circumstances, 90% circumstances, you have to keep this professional secrecy. Your name is father, spouse, employee, all these things we have covered in the first part of our lecture. And in the second part, we have covered about the privileged communication. That is, it is the bona fide information given to the authority by RMP by virtue of his duty to protect society or public, and we have seen numerous circumstances like that of the first is that of the sexually transmitted diseases, then infectious disease, non-infectious disease, infectious disease in a public place, then epidemic, crime, interest of patient, interest of doctor, court of law. So this is all for today's lecture. Make thorough this topic. It is very important, and for your university examination or as a successful, honest, registered medical practitioner. Again, read this topic today only. So all your concepts get clear. Thank you very much for patiently listening. Take care, my students. Whatever the rules, regulations has been framed by government, follow it. Don't go to the public place. Take care of your parents or your peers. Thank you very much.